Hi, HR Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. Today, we're joined by Kristina Johnson, the Chief People Officer at Okta. Kristina, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, before we jump in, tell everyone a bit about yourself personally and your journey to where we are today.
Yeah, so I joined Okta. I've been in the HR industry for 20 years now. I joined Okta about 4 years ago, a year before they went public. And it's been a wild ride, but a good ride. And we are embarking on a journey to become more distributed. We're calling it dynamic work, but it's basically a journey to become a more distributed workforce. So happy to be here talking about it with you today.
Mm-hmm. For those who aren't aware of the business, tell us briefly a little bit about the Okta.
We enable any organization to use any technology from anywhere. So basically, we're security and identity in the cloud. So an example would be when you log into JetBlue, you're using Okta. For the employees at Nordstrom's and 21st Century Fox, when they log in and connect every day, they're using Okta. So we just enable those connections in a very secure way in the cloud.
Mm-hmm. So essentially what we're talking about today is almost built in the DNA of the business.
That's it. That's it. We call it eating your own dog food, right? We have this technology that allows people to connect from anywhere. So we need to do that with our talent pool and our workforce.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to have you on the show because dynamic work is something we haven't discussed, which is crazy considering we've done over 200 episodes of the show. For people that aren't aware of the term, what is dynamic work?
Dynamic work is really just working in a distributed fashion. So instead of needing to have your talent pool in your San Francisco office or in your London office or your Dublin office, it's finding the talent that you need wherever they are and then making sure that they're able to securely connect to the technologies that they need to do their work and be productive.
What was the inspiration behind exploring dynamic work for your own organization? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it was several things. It wasn't any one thing. It was a fact that the war for talent is tougher than ever, right? And when you're looking for tech talent, you're primarily going to find it in the most expensive cities in the world. So we are growing our headcount 35-40% year over year. We are in the most expensive cities in the world. We're in London. We're in Paris, we're in San Francisco. And so we realized that we cannot continue to grow our physical footprint the same way. So we want to kind of flip that model of finding talent on its head. Instead of facilities going in and trying to determine where to put an office and then find talent, we want to say, no, we're going to go out and find the talent first. And then when we have critical mass, then we'll think about going in with a WeWork or, some space and then maybe building out an office from there. This is the way of the future, right? When my daughter, who's now 11, is 30 and in the workforce, it's going to be all about technology. People are going to work from all over the world. And I think we really will start to see, a decline of this HQ, or corporate or headquarters because people are going to be so distributed.
Was this driven from HR? Was this driven from the leadership team? How did that work to this?
It was kind of born out of our executive staff. The leadership team, we call it T-staff. Basically, it means Todd's staff, who Todd is my boss. And we were talking about how much we're growing. And as we were looking ahead at our, 2 and 3 and 5 year plans and realizing how big we were going to get and the costs that we were spending on our facilities, it just wasn't tenable. And then that led to more philosophical discussions of, well, this is what we do after all, right? We say we have technology that you can be anywhere and still be connected. So it came out of the leadership team, and then it was a very cross-functional effort working with IT, with facilities, we call it workplace, and obviously the people team to make sure we were thinking about it the right way when we wanted to, start modeling it out.
What I love about having you on the show right now is you're in the midst of this journey. So how is it going so far? What does the process of rolling this out look like? How are you communicating it internally and externally if you are?
Yeah, actually, it's very timely because we rolled out our test pilot in the US last week on my team. So as of last Monday, my team is fully dynamic. No one has an assigned desk. But we started earlier this year in our London office. We rolled it out as a test pilot there. With any new thing, it's, there's some bumps in the road and we had to learn and kind of pivot quickly from some of the feedback that we got. But the rollout in the US with my team has been, it's been 1 week, so knock on wood, but no noise at all, And what we did is when we first announced clear off your desks. No one's going to have an assigned desk. When you come in, you'll have your neighborhood. You'll have the people team neighborhood. You can show up and take a desk. If for some reason there's no desks available, we have hoteling spaces set up. That's never going to happen because I cannot recall a day walking through the 15th floor of HQ where every single desk was taken. It just doesn't happen. And then we held a town hall to answer people's questions. People had some very logistical questions like, what do I do with my papers? Or what about the picture of my dog? Or, just things like that. So we held a town hall to kind of let everybody know that it wasn't going to be as disruptive as they might be imagining. And so far we've heard nothing. And I think no news is good news on those things.
Yeah. What was the initial reaction? You mentioned some of the things, but what was the main concerns that people had?
It was interesting. There was two camps. There were people who were like, awesome, this is the best thing ever. That, it saves me 3 hours commuting. And then there were other people that they don't like working from home, or it's not conducive. They don't have space, or they have small children at home. They just can't work from home. So it was those two things. It was great. This is wonderful. And oh no. And so one of the things that I tried to emphasize with the team was, look, we've got a perfect combination here. The people that need to be in the office will be offset by the people that are more than happy to, avoid the commute and work from home. One thing that I think is that we learned both from the London rollout and the one with my team is having lockers or having cabinets and spaces for people to kind of put some of their things that they don't want to take back and forth every day is really important. And so that's one thing that we're doing now in San Francisco. We did in London. We put lockers in because people take their laptops back and forth every day. But there are some things, that people don't want to have to go back and forth with.
Yeah, it's almost like a gym model in that sense. If everyone turned up to the gym on the same day, there'll not be enough room, right? But that just never happens. What about the infrastructure? Because I'm sure beforehand, not everyone had a laptop they could pick up and just go and sit down somewhere else, or did they? What did the infrastructure change look like?
We do. The infrastructure change has been, minimal to nothing because of the fact that the technology that Okta has right now, including Okta, already enables us for everyone to work effectively in a distributed way. So it wasn't so much about, do we need new technology? It was much more critical to say, hey, we need to make sure we're fully adopting the technology we have. You have to be on Slack. When you're on a Zoom, make sure your camera's on. Things like that was much more critical than trying to figure out what new technology we might need. Everyone has a laptop that they pick up and take home. So that was not an issue. We have Slack, we have Zoom, we have, all of those things that enable us to really be able to work in a distributed way. So it wasn't about implementing new things.
So speaking to Microsoft recently, obviously have a similar workplace layout. They say one of their big challenges was helping their managers lead their teams and manage their teams remotely. How do you enable that, and what kind of support and training have you provided your managers to adapt to this new way of working?
I would agree with that. That is the number one challenge to this being successful, is making sure that every single manager understands how to manage in a distributed way. Some people are new managers. They've never managed on-site resources, let alone distributed resources. And so it's a process we're going through now, and we are actually working on rolling out Okta University, which is one thing we're going to roll out next year. And a big piece of that is going to be dynamic workforce. When you come on board Okta, you're going to learn this is what it means to be a dynamic workforce, and the management will go through specific training, and the content will be specifically targeted to helping people understand how to lead a distributed team in a productive way. So we're rolling that out now. We do have some resources that our L&D team has put together for managing remote workers. So we're doing it a little bit now, but it will be very indoctrinated into the culture once we roll out Okta University.
What are some of the main differences? I've never managed a remote workforce myself personally, but what are the main differences you see in challenges?
One key thing is for managers to stay connected with their employees with weekly check-ins. So if you're in the office, you tend to not worry about whether you
naturally do that. Yeah.
Check, right? Because it's like, well, I'll walk over there and talk to them.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll Slack them, even if they're sitting outside. So it becomes very, very important that you are disciplined about meeting with your employees on a regular basis. And I also think the FaceTime is important. So we always tell our managers, if you have distributed or remote workers, you need to make sure once a month everyone's in the same location. If you're if you're all domestic. If it's international, once a quarter, make sure everyone's in the same location, because that is important. You can get away with the remote communication and communication via Zoom once you have that relationship established. And so we do encourage the FaceTime as well.
One of the concerns I also hear from people is how you effectively measure performance with someone working remotely. How do you know they're working and getting the job done? How has that changed the way you measure performance now?
That goes back to your original, question of the leadership. Understanding how to manage remotely is the number one challenge, because if a manager says to me, well, how do I know if they're productive or what they're doing? Well, that's the problem right there. In your mind, you're equating, I see you, so you're working. And that's not the case. At Okta, we have what we call a VMT. It's vision, methods, targets. So it's very prescriptive from the top down. Every single year, everyone knows these are the 6 main methods that we are working on. Like this year, some examples were to win the world's largest organizations and to fuel our growth. Then there were targets from there saying, this is how we will know we're achieving those things. And it rolls down to every single individual contributor. Every person at Okta understands what their methods and targets are. So from a just, purely mechanical standpoint, it's not hard to know if they're being productive because it's in their quarterly performance reviews. We do quarterly alignment reviews, whether they are achieving the targets that have been set out for them. But it goes back to, just because you see someone doesn't mean they're productive. And some people, in fact, are more productive at home, as we all know by now. So people can be just as productive remotely. And if managers question that, that goes back to one of the bigger challenges.
The benefits of this, we've spoken about a few, but what are some of the other benefits of working this way? And what changes are you hoping to see in the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, the benefits definitely are the fact that there are people that are more productive when they don't have to have a 3-hour commute, or they're just roles or positions that are conducive to working at home. But I think on a macro level, the benefit is going to be the ability to get the best talent in the world, right? Because space, and geographical restrictions have been some of the main challenges to trying to get the best talent. Right. And so I think that as we're able to have someone in India connected on the same technology as people all over the world, or you have, teams in Paris working with the teams in Dublin, that's going to be the big game changer, I think, in HR, is it really does widen the talent pool that we're going to be able to pull in.
I think that's one of the most exciting things, of that.
100%.
And as we're growing our sales force here, that's something I'm coming to terms with as well, because traditionally I've worked in companies where it's an entire floor of salespeople, and most of those people I could attract because of their location. It's always how far, if it's more than an hour's commute, I'm probably not going to be able to get those guys because they're not going to travel in over an hour and a half plus a day to come and join us. But now working remotely, that objection's completely gone. It's really cool.
And it's really exciting also when you think about it from a diversity perspective, that just sheerly by being able to reach across, continents and all over the world to get talent, you are automatically going to have more diverse talent pool. And the more diversity you have, the more minds you bring to bear on a problem, and the more people that are trying to bring a solution from all of their different perspectives, the better everyone's going to be. So it's really exciting when you think about it.
What's been the biggest challenge that you faced personally?
For me personally, as the head of HR, the biggest challenge has been helping leaders to get comfortable with this. And we still have some parts of the organization that are not adopting it yet. So that we have pockets of the organization that are more open to this than others. And it's our job as the people team to help those leaders get comfortable with it and to help them understand how they can manage talent this way and how they can, make sure the talent is still getting all of the career development and all of the opportunities being remote as they would being on site.
Mm-hmm. And looking back, would you roll this out in the same way?
Sure, we would have done a few things differently just based on, the fact that with any new thing you roll out, there's challenges along the way. So we might have done a few things differently. I wouldn't say anything major. This whole idea of moving to dynamic work and no one has assigned desk is pretty new, right? Like there's no really large company doing this really, really well. And I think everyone's kind of learning from each other. And we've certainly been doing a bit of a roadshow going around trying to meet with disruptors that are embarking on the same journey and saying, what did you do? How did you do it? What did you learn? So there are some things that we would do, a couple of things we might do differently, but we're trying to learn from each test pilot that we roll out and make it better for the next time.
I'm often told as well that sometimes the most senior leaders are the ones that are the biggest culprits in terms of navigating the change, because they're the ones with the offices. They're used to having their own space, their own environment, getting them out of their office onto the floor amongst everyone else. Was that a challenge at all?
That's still something we have to address. So for our executive staff meeting that we have every Monday, every single person is sitting around the table in San Francisco, right? And so I actually had said a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey, for one of our next staff meetings, I don't care who's in the office, everyone has to go back to their own office and get on Zoom so that we can understand the pain points that other people feel and model this. But yes, we right now have a very San Francisco-centric leadership team. And so that will change over the next 12 to 24 months as we're embracing this more fully.
Yeah, it's understandable though. It is quite a big change. If you've been working that way your entire career, moving to having those kind of remote meetings with the team, I'm sure it's going to be a big part of the change, a big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm trying to model it for my team. So I do have an office, but what I told them is on the days I'm working remotely, I can't identify those days in advance, just the nature of my job. But when I can, I'll email the entire team and my office is open for anybody that wants to go in and use it. If you want to schedule meetings or interviews in there. So I'm trying to model that for the team as well. But it's definitely a challenge. And I did work with a leader, this was several years ago at another company, and he would have all of his staff meetings with everyone on Zoom. It wasn't Zoom, it was a different technology at the time. But even if everyone was in the office, if even one person was not going to be in person for the meeting, he made everybody log on remotely from a different location. And it created a really even playing field. So I think that's important.
I know it's, again, still really early, but have you found this already being impactful in terms of attracting talent to the business?
We haven't seen it yet, but what's interesting has come up from the recruiting team is, okay, when we're recruiting someone now for the people team, since no one has assigned desks, how do we talk about that? Because that could it could be an attractor or it could be a detractor, right? And so we're working through that right now on what is the message, what is the narrative around if you're being hired to work in HR or in recruiting at Okta and you're going to be San Francisco based, what does that look like?
Looking forward to following your journey. We have to do like a part 2 in like 6 months from now, 12 months maybe, and see kind of where you are. Because you are right. There are not many companies out there that have a great case study. That not many. I know a lot of the big companies that are doing it, but are they doing it well? It's questionable. So I'd be interested to follow your progress. So as I said, that leads us quite nicely onto the quickfire round. We're going to ask you 5 questions, and you have no longer than 30 seconds to give us some amazing answers. Are you ready?
Do my best.
Yeah. What was the number one thing that was holding you back from becoming a senior HR leader?
I think the number one thing holding me back was just experience. HR is one of those roles where you have to have done it enough times. It's not just book learning. You have to have done, investigations or whatever it is so many times, and you have to demonstrate that you're, becoming more proficient with that. And so I think that was probably it.
Yeah, I love that. My wife's sister's studying HR at the moment, and one of my advice is saying you need to live it and breathe it, because reading it in a textbook is one thing, but trust me, from someone who speaks to HR leaders every day, what you're reading is really not the reality of what it means to lead.
In HR, you have to have some road dust on you to get to the top.
Definitely. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
That's how you progress.
That's right. You learn, right? You have to hope the mistakes you make don't burn the place down. Make the small mistakes.
Learn from them. That's the main thing. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. All right. And fell forward. I always love that expression. What's one book you'd recommend to our audience?
There's a book I'm reading right now. It's Ben Horowitz's new book. It's What You Do Is Who You Are. It's all about company culture. It's a great book, and it's a pretty easy read. But it's his latest book, just came out.
Fantastic. Could you share some internet resources you use to either, increase your own productivity or stay up to date with current events?
Yeah, I do use the SHRM website, some of the HR websites a lot, or LinkedIn. But probably the most valuable thing for me is I've created a network of other CHROs especially in the Bay Area and among my peers. And we have our own kind of email distribution list going on, and we will just quickly email back and forth. Hey, are you guys seeing this, and what are you doing about it? Or, how are you handling equity? Just things like that. That's probably been the most valuable for me.
Yeah. And also, I love that you mentioned it, by the way, because it also doesn't cost anything. And for everyone out there, don't be afraid to reach out to other HR leaders in your community in the area, because you'll be surprised at how much value you can gain from that. Like you just said a minute ago, that's the most valuable experience from people that are living and breathing it and putting out the same fires on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, you can't underestimate the importance of networks. It's super valuable.
Yeah, but you have to schedule time for it, though, or at least take some time out, which I think a lot of leaders don't do, yes. Including myself. It's guilty of that as well. What's one thing about your business that you're most excited about today?
Oh, I'm most excited about our market opportunity. Like it's endless. You can't open a paper or turn on the news and not hear about a breach or a hack. And every company is becoming a technology company. Everything's moving to the cloud. So what Okta is doing really matters on a macro level, and it's exciting.
When I first came across your business and we were speaking, and I looked into the company, that was my first impression. By the way, I was like, "What a space to be in right now."
Yes,
like it doesn't get much more exciting. As you said, more and more companies are becoming technology. As their foundation, and we're seeing the impact of cybersecurity now on businesses' share price as well. So it's such an important time. So it's very exciting times for you and the team. But Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us. Really appreciate you coming on to share your experience so far. We're really looking forward to following you on your journey throughout this. Before we wrap up, if there's sort of one parting piece of advice you could give to everyone in terms of what you've learned so far, what would that be? And then what's the best way for the audience to get in contact with you if they have any questions or want to connect?
Yeah, the number one thing, if you're going to embark on this journey, is you have to trust. You have to instill that trust in your leaders with their teams. You have to have that, or it's not going to work. People can get in touch with me through my LinkedIn profile, or I'm Kristina.Johnson at Okta.com.
Fantastic.
And tell your wife we're always looking for fantastic talent, and we don't monitor when you log on.
I know I'm going to be in trouble now. If she listens to this after, she can be like, "Why did you say that?" Because it's just an observation I noticed recently. I'm like, that's strange. You have to log in by a certain time and log out just so they know you've measured those hours. It's like you could log in and go out for the rest of the day, and then log on again. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, I'll let her know.
We'd love to have her work at Okta. Tell her to come on.
Yeah. If you have any roles in the customer service team or anything like that, dealing with clients,
always.
She'll be involved. Fantastic. Well, look, for everyone listening, guys, as always, if you head over to hrleaders.com/podcast, you'll find the show notes from this episode, everything we've been talking about. A link to Kristina's LinkedIn will be in there, link to the website, everything you need there. Apart from that, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us, and I wish you all the best until we next speak.
Thank you.